So hello. This is myself, David Ellis, with Michael Muller. Say hi, Michael.
Hello.
And we're getting together via a link to talk about some records from last year, things that we love, things that have stood out to us, or additions to our record collecting that have been particularly notable. And so we picked 5 records each, and we're going to, I think, take it in turns to talk about some records and see where that takes us. Does that sound good?
Brilliant, Dave. Good to be back with you.
Good to see you too. Yeah. It was a pleasure to spend some time during the summer. So great to see you again.
Yeah, and I just watched your vinyl tag, so that was quite enjoyable as always. So everyone, go watch that if you haven't yet.
Yeah, little mention of you in there.
Yeah, great. Do you want to kick us off with your first record?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I made myself a few notes because when I do these things, I always get to the end of it and then think, I forgot to mention that, or I forgot. So I made a few notes. So excuse me if I look down. I wish my memory was better than it is. But the first one I'm going to talk about is this record by Hayden Pedigo, which is called I'll Be Waving As You Drive Away. So I went to see Hayden Pedigo play at King's Place in London during the summer. And he played mostly this album, although a few other things as well. And I'd previously bought his other 2 albums, which are in the same kind of series, which he calls his kind of, what does he call them? The Motor Trilogy. And they all feature paintings by Jonathan Phillips. But this I'll Be Driving As You Walk Away is his 2025 release. And it feels like his most ambitious record of the 3. I think when I saw him play, he talked about how difficult it was to play. And in fact, before starting one song, he said, you have to know at this point I'm completely shitting myself, because when I recorded this particular track, I kind of was really proud of myself that I achieved something that's very difficult to do on the guitar. I said, but now I come to play them live and I'm just like, why have I done that to myself? Yeah, he was very nice and self-effacing about it. And just to explain, it's a kind of finger-picking style. It's mostly him playing electric guitars and acoustic guitars. And there are some other things in the background. There's some violin by a guy called Nathan Bieber, piano by Jens Kuros, some pedal steel by Nicole Lawrence. And I think there might be a few little vocals in the background, but it feels predominantly like a kind of vehicle just for his guitar. It's a very kind of calm record. It's very kind of beautiful, and I wrote some slightly ambient. It's quite pastoral. But the mood is kind of positive and upbeat. Often when I buy these kind of albums, they're a bit melancholy. Often the music I gravitate towards, other people say, "Oh, that's a bit depressing, isn't it?" And I go, "No, it's beautiful." But this one does feel kind of very positive, even though he says about it, it has emotions of loneliness, hope, forgiveness, redemption, and frustration, which I don't get at all listening to it. It feels like a very positive, upbeat album to me. And what else? Did I write anything else about it? Yeah, I mean, again, stylistically, I suppose you could compare his style to John Fahey and those kind of very kind of accomplished guitar players in that sense. Yeah. But this doesn't feel like a retro record. It doesn't feel like a pastiche of something from a bygone era. even though it feels like I noticed Headley included it in his Americana tag. I can totally see why it's in there, but it doesn't feel like a nostalgic record at all. It feels very modern to me, and I like it very much.
It's beautiful. I mean, he's a virtuosic player, very inventive, and had quite a character too. Almost like a concept of an artist in a way. If you know anything about him, but there was
I believe he ran for mayor of Amarillo.
Yeah, he's from a small town in the panhandle of Texas, and I mean, part publicity stunt, I'm sure, but part who knows. Really
exactly.
Beautiful. I don't have that one, but I've listened to it a lot online. I think there's a song called Hermes or Hermes, which is my favorite on there. About halfway through.
Yes. Side B, the second track.
So good.
It's one of these. I quite often find it with albums. It feels like it's just a complete work, so I don't really tend to remember track names. I just play the whole album, if you know what I mean, because it feels like it's all of a very similar kind of mood and kind of temperament. That even though there are individual tracks, I don't tend to do that.
That's the best way to do it if you have the time.
Exactly.
The first one I have came out in January of 2025. This is Olga Anna Markowska. This is her debut full length. I think she has one EP prior to this. She is a cellist and a zitherist. So zither is almost kind of like a lap harp that's played with your fingers, mixed with cello and some electronics. This was released on the Miasmah label by XKatedral, who's known for his partnership in Def Center and also his solo work under his name and an alias called Svarta Greiner. But this is kind of dark ambient neoclassical, very, very tasteful, very, very low bass resonance. So on a larger system or a system that can extend on the low end, this has really, really beautiful, lush, deep, blooming low end, paired with the kind of metallic zither and then just like very lush, rich cello. This album was like kind of blew me away. I couldn't stop listening to it. I did a deep listening kind of analysis of it on my Substack, which I'll link here if you want to read and listen more about my interpretation of the album in a deeper way. But of course, I reached out to her and just explained how much the album meant to me and how much I enjoyed it. And we actually worked on a film score together, which we completed a couple months ago. Yeah, so that's kind of fun. Hopefully more collaborations in the future. But Olga Anna Markowska and Eric Skodman, the label owner of Miasmah, also did the design. I think this is a sort of a print from a photographer friend of the artist, but really beautiful handwriting on the back. It's not too easy to find in the US, but quite accessible. And I think still available from the Bandcamp. I'll leave the links for all these choices from both of us below.
Yeah, I bought that one from Sonic Pieces store.
Right.
As I was buying another one, I kind of noticed that and played it, streamed some of it, and took a little bit of a punt, but I really love it. The sleeve kind of impressed me, how well printed it is. That it has a really thin red border around it. That's very difficult to achieve in a kind of regular way. You have to be really precise with the creasing and the cutting of it. But lots of printers would kind of ask you not to do that.
Needs to be too precise. Yeah, so highly recommended on Olga Anna Markowska. Yeah. What's next for you, David?
So the next one is one that I know that you like very much, which is Jonny Nash. And Once Was Ours Forever. And this was an album which is a kind of follow-up album to one he did in, I think, 2023, which obviously, they sit very happily side by side. And this is called Point of Entry. And sonically, they're quite similar albums too. So Jonny Nash is a guitarist, and on this, it feels like, although it's predominantly a guitar record, there's so much kind of reverb added to the guitars, and he uses different guitars, and he uses kind of voices that feel like they're kind of whispering slightly, or they're singing, but they're very kind of echoed out, and it almost feels like the voices become another instrument. And the guitar notes just feel like they kind of hang in the air, that, he's got the reverb or the kind of texture of that just right. And I just love the way that it kind of feels in the space when I play that, downstairs where I listen to records. The music just fills that space and just like kind of resonates in the air. It's a beautiful record. I really love it. These two, this one and this one, I kind of go back and forth between the two of them. But again, it feels like a complete work to me. And again, one of those ones where I couldn't name you a single track because it's just the album for me. Yeah. Not that it's like a concept album, but it is one kind of mood which seems to just drift throughout the whole thing. So if I'm in the mood for this record, then it's perfect. You're not suddenly going to come across a track which is doing something completely different. It is very consistent in that way. And not to say that it's dull within that, but it's just very, very, very beautiful. So there are some other instruments along there. There's some saxophone and cello, and I think there's some synth layers going in there, but it is really kind of layered in that sense. I think Jonny Nash was originally from Scotland, but he lives in Holland now. And this is on the Point of Entry label, which I don't really know. Maybe it's his own thing. I'm not sure.
I think he runs I think all of his music is through his own label. Yeah, you're right.
And I've got tickets to go and see him play at the Jazz Cafe in about 2 weeks' time, actually.
Oh yeah, I saw
that. I'm really looking forward to it. And he's playing with another musician whose name I forgot to write down. Did you see him play?
Yeah, I just saw Jonny. I think the other musician's name is Tomo. I can't remember his last name. A Japanese man who I believe also lives in near Amsterdam.
Okay.
Another guitarist. So they're playing Jonny's songs kind of as a duet.
Okay, they're playing together. I wondered whether it would be one artist and then another one, but they're together.
Yeah, it's really, really nice live. It feels somewhat there's a bit of room for improvisation, but you can hear the main melodies and riffs kind of drifting in and out. It's really, you're gonna have a great time. That was also one of my favorites of the year. But I would have shown that as well, but you had the honor there. It's great. Yeah, Jonny's incredible.
Yeah, he certainly is.
My next pick is an album. It's the Brendan Eder Ensemble, Eder. Brendan is actually a jazz percussionist, but also an arranger and composer. And this is he has kind of like a rotating door ensemble, and he's done more straight ahead jazz. But this album is actually all woodwinds. So I would almost say it's like ambient music, but played completely by flutes and clarinets of varying, pitch from like contrabass all the way to alto. And this actually came out in 2023, self-released by Brendan Eder, and then it was repressed, and I just got it this year. But cool. I saw him perform where he had four woodwind players set around the room with different microphones, and he was stationed in the middle, kind of arranging and manipulating and looping their phrases into kind of a larger orchestration, while everyone kind of sat amid the players and him in the center. It was totally incredible.
Wow.
Two of the tracks here are covers of the Aphex Twin selected ambient works, Volume 2,
Okay.
which are kind of some of the more salient pieces from the early Aphex Twin. You know, if you listen to that double album,
Yeah.
you'll recognize a couple of these tunes. But everything's kind of in a similar spirit. There's like these beautiful phrases that kind of build and cascade and kind of start weaving in and out, and then it just slowly kind of descends. So again, like you were saying, it's sort of one full album. It's not like distinctive what song is which, but Brendan Eder Ensemble. This album's called Therapy, and I believe it's available for sure through his Bandcamp. I'm not sure about if it's distributed to shops or not, but yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, so I must give that a listen. I listened to a few tracks. Did you include some on one of your mix selections?
I must have, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
I must listen to the whole album.
Yeah, I'm operating the OJAS system in New York City next week. So if anyone's in New York on January 31st, I'll be playing side A of this, I think, hopefully. At least a few tracks. Yeah.
Lovely.
All right. What's next for you, sir?
Okay, next one I'm going to show is by is a jazz, kind of a jazz record, band called Vega Trails. So again, I saw them play this year. I think it was April at the ICA in London. And this is only their second album. So their first album was called Tremors in the Static, was just a duo. So it's Milo Fitzpatrick, who's also with a band called Pedigo Quartet, and a saxophonist, a sax player called Jordan Smart, who's also in Mammal Hands and Sunda Ark. And so they put out an album in 2022, Tremors in the Static, which was just the pair of them playing in a church in London. And that was very beautiful, very minimal, very stripped back. This one is 2025. So Milo Fitzpatrick's moved to Spain, apparently. And he's kind of living in the foothills of the mountains in Spain. And this was inspired by that. It feels a much lusher album, and it feels like they've moved from jazz towards classical in a way. So he added, first of all, he added piano, a guy called Taz Modi on piano, who also supported them on his own when I saw them play at the ICA. Really lovely piano player. And Harriet Riley on vibraphone and Dan C on drums. Then he wanted to add some cello and was chatting to Hania Rani and ended up going over to Warsaw to share kind of 10-piece string section with her and a recording session she was doing in Warsaw. So this, although it's kind of got, they're kind of jazz compositions, it feels like it's edging more towards neoclassical in a way. And that makes it kind of really interesting for me. I often find when I'm kind of getting really excited about a record, I find it difficult to pigeonhole kind of where I would put it if I owned a record store. Or maybe that just piques my interest more. I don't know. So it's kind of, I mean, lots of the music I listen to is kind of gentle and immersive, which this is, but it's also kind of quite hypnotic in places. And there are kind of phrases which repeat and expand, and it feels like it came out of a lot of kind of improvisation and things like that. And
this is on Gondwana.
I wrote this is on Gondwana. Yeah, I wrote a quote down here from a guy called Jack Havina from UK Jazz News, And he said, Sierra Tracks is not only the album one might have hoped for after the beautiful tremors in the static, it's much more than that. Fitzpatrick has almost created a new musical genre. Sierra Tracks gets under the skin from the first listen and then finds its way to your heart, which I thought was rather lovely. So yeah, what more to say about it? I think it's really well worth the listen. It makes me kind of really look forward to where they might go to next, or how this will kind of expand. It feels like something they're really experimenting with, pushing between different kind of genres in that way, and it's certainly really successful with this one.
I love the cover art, really beautiful.
Yeah, they're like little footprints in the desert. Maybe, I don't know if that's going to focus. Yeah.
I think that you turned me on to them via their last album, the previous one to this.
Yeah, the one really, really recorded cool. In the church.
Right. Great. Vega Trails.
Vega Trails.
My next one is Def Center, which, pardon the glare, it's still in the shrink wrap here. It's hard to tell. This is kind of a blind spot gloss. This kind of water in the sand kind of pattern here on this gold sleeve. Def Center is a duet from Norway and Berlin. Very dark ambient, kind of extended technique cello that doesn't really sound like cello, and some electronics and field recordings and bizarre, old samples mixed with very sparse, minimal piano, played by Otto Totland. And this is released on the Sonic Pieces label out of Berlin. And I believe I guess is technically an EP. It's 2 long songs. I think they're about 15 minutes each, so maybe that would constitute the full length. I'm not sure. But this was taken from a kind of a live improvised session in a recording studio in Berlin. And they kind of pulled these long pieces and made this album out of it. But they've been going since, I think their first record was 2006, maybe, on the now defunct Type label out of England. But just very exceptional, very kind of cinematic, dark and brooding, but very plaintive and beautiful at times. And I don't know if you can see the inside is this kind of bright red color.
Nice touch.
Which is a nice touch, yeah. So Def Center, and the title is called Reverie. Kind of nice wintry music here. Some of my favorite.
I have that one too.
Yeah, it's I think it's of the kind of darker ambient, neoclassical adjacent world. This is probably the stuff I return to most frequently over the past 20 years now. But this is their latest, and they've just announced a new full length, which is coming later this year, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I've been collecting some of their records too, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, great. Okay,
great.
Back to you.
Okay, so this is my fourth. Yeah, another bit of paper. Keep me on track. So this is an album called The Animals, or The Animal, by Blue Lake. So Blue Lake is a guy, basically a guy called Jason Dungan. Do you know him? He's originally from Texas, I believe.
No, I've actually not even, I haven't heard this album. I've just heard the name, so I'm excited to check this one out.
So yeah, he's originally from Texas, I think, but he's settled in Copenhagen now and records under this moniker of Blue Lake. I bought their album from a couple of years ago, which is this one, which is, I think, more of a personal project for him. That Sun Arcs is that one, whereas this one feels more collaborative. It's him and he's put a band together, and it feels like, although the compositions are his, he's beginning to let go of the reins slightly, but to very good effect. There's Carolyn Goodwin on bass clarinet, Pauline on viola, Nicola cello, Tomo's on double bass, and Oliver's on drums and voice. And this feels less angular. He's another one that uses zither a lot, and I think he builds zithers as well and makes his own.
Huh.
So some previous ones I've heard of his, they've got that very trebly, very kind of angular, kind of plucked steel string kind of feeling. Do you know what I mean? It's got, I don't know how you would describe that, but it's got a very kind of slightly harsh sound. It's not a kind of, whereas this one seems to lean less heavily into that as an instrument, and the kind of broader instrumentation makes it feel kind of warmer and lusher, and as a kind of stylistically, it feels a little bit folky, but there are little jazz influences, and there are again, it's another one that I would find very difficult to kind of pigeonhole as to what kind of genre that's in. What did I write down here? I wrote some notes to stop myself forgetting. It's very dynamic, actually. I find myself turning it up quite loud because there are like other sounds, other instruments kind of hidden down low, and it's you're someone that you can really turn up, and it doesn't feel like, oh my God, that's really loud. It just gets fuller and richer in a way.
Have you listened to it in headphones?
Nice thing. I haven't actually. I've only listened to it through speakers. I don't tend to listen to through headphones that much, unless I'm listening on my phone to a stream, which is not quite the same.
Could be an interesting to see what sounds you can pick up with the.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like quite a kind of transatlantic record to me. Like I can hear his American influences in a way, but then this feels like there are a lot of kind of European and Scandi ones as well. So that has a nice kind of duality to it. And I think they might be playing in London later this year, so it might be a band I'll check out.
Great. I remember seeing the Sun Arcs record, but I haven't listened to either, so I'm excited to get on that.
Yeah, have a listen. I think you might like that one.
Great. Blue Lake. Pardon me. My next one is an album by Yair, Elazar, Glotman, and Mass Erlandsson. This is called Glory Fades. This was released also this previous January at the very start of 2025 on the XKatedral label out of Sweden, which is a label collective run by Erlandsson and Callie Malone and a few other people in Stockholm in the kind of minimal drone experimental scene. This album sonically is, and production-wise, is one of the most dynamic and massive sounding records I've ever heard in my life. I'm like right up there with like very high quality, full analog cut, beautiful classical recordings. It has so much low end and so much clarity. It's really kind of a study in sustain. So there's these kind of, Yair is a double bassist, and Mass is primarily a guitarist, I believe. And they're both producers in their own right. But the recording quality, so the way they captured the sounds and the way they mixed it and the mastering, I don't know, it's some sort of magical alchemy. There's this deep, lush, huge low end from the double bass, and then there's these kind of hypnotic guitar passages that are so present and so tactile. You can like almost feel like his fingernail touching the string. Like it's so the dynamism is incredibly huge. On my Substack, I also did a feature on this, kind of going through it recently, talking about different tracks and my impressions of it. But this is incredible. Not a super easy album to find, especially in the US. I got this while I was in Berlin on my last tour.
Okay.
But it is, I don't know, it's kind of, I know I played this at the 180 Studios listening session where we were together a few months ago. quite exceptional.
Yeah, that was interesting because you mentioned it, and I listened to some of it just on a stream, just through my little earbuds, and I was like, it's quite nice. Then you played it, and I was like, okay, oh wow, now I get it through a decent, through a very good system there. So yeah, I bought that record too, and you're right. Yeah, I'm very glad I have a subwoofer because there's some really low stuff, but there's detail within the low stuff too. So it sounds beautiful. It's a beautiful record.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think they've done two others previous to this, going back almost 10 years in a collaboration between the two. Mass is based in Stockholm, and Yair is based in Berlin. So it's kind of, and I think Mass works at I'm not sure if he's an engineer, but he at least works in some capacity at a very famous recording studio in Stockholm. And Yair has a beautiful studio in Berlin, so they're well equipped to produce very high quality recordings.
Yeah.
Yair's best known for his work with the late Johan Johansson. He worked on the last and first Men, and he also did a bunch of stuff on the Mandy score. And in his own right, he's done a lot of film work. Just very, very high level of production. So the musically, of course, it's beautiful and great. It's kind of hypnotic phrases with just all this space. It's a very it needs a little bit of patience, but it's quite rewarding. Gets you into the flow state for sure.
Yeah. I think if you're in the right mood for that, then it's just beautiful. Yeah, totally. Yeah, nice choice.
Your fifth and final choice from 2025.
Okay. Well, this is a bit of a beast, which is I don't really buy many box sets, but I bought this Nick Drake box set, which is The Making of Five Leaves Left. And so this is one that contains how many? 32 demos, as well as the final album. So there are four albums in here, and a kind of quite detailed book that goes with it that talks about it. And for me, I discovered this record. Well, I should show this one. So the first record of Nick Drake's I ever discovered was this one, which is his final record, which is really stripped back, and it's just him and a guitar, pretty much. There might be some bass on there, but it's a very simple thing, and I absolutely loved it. So when I came to this one, which was an earlier record, I was a bit surprised that it was so kind of full and kind of orchestrated in a way, and there were strings and all kinds of other things going on in it. And so in a way, for me, having this box set, which includes lots of the demos, where it is just back to him and his guitar, it kind of, some of them I prefer to the final thing, even though the kind of production quality is not quite up there. Still, some of them were done in proper recording studios, so they sound pretty damn good. And it's a record that he recorded whilst he was still studying at university. I think some of the tracks were written in his first year studying English literature at Cambridge University, and recorded by a friend who had a tape recorder. So hearing some of those really early ones is really interesting. And also, he's kind of talking about orchestrating it and putting other things in at that early stage. He obviously felt that it needed to be bigger and grander and more. And it probably wasn't until later in his life that he kind of came to the realization that actually that wasn't really needed in his music. He's an incredible guitar player. He could do so much with the guitar that lots of that extra stuff didn't feel really necessary at all. So, I mean, there have been quite a lot of those albums released in recent years that have all the kind of outtakes and the demos and blah, blah, blah. mostly I've kind of avoided them because it just feels like, oh, I'll play it once out of curiosity and then I won't play it again. But with these, I think some of these I'm probably playing more than his final version of the album.
Interesting.
Because they're simpler and then they're stripped back. And there is the other thing that you hear little bits of him talking in between takes or talking to the engineer. And he's an artist who there's no footage of him playing live. There are no interviews of him ever been filmed. You know what I mean? He made 3 albums and then tragically took his own life. So he's quite an enigma in that way. So it feels really kind of magical to hear him chatting in between tracks. It's kind of
interesting.
It's like a kind of rare and beautiful thing in a way.
I love that. I'm curious to hear those demos. I've heard the normal studio album or the final released versions of those songs, but yeah, Pink Moon was also the first and the one I know the best of his 3. Incredible. I'll be on the lookout for that one.
Yeah, give it a listen.
5 leaves. What's the tag? 5 leaves left, and then what's
5 leaves left? Yeah, the making of 5 leaves left.
The making of. Okay, cool, great. All right. Well, the last one for me it's called "That Wasn't a Dream." This is Pino, Palladino, and Blake Mills. Pino Palladino is a very virtuosic bass player, session guy. He played on tons of stuff through the 90s and aughts. And Blake Mills is, in his own right, one of the most inventive living guitarists, in my opinion. Blake co-owns or co-operates the Sound City Studios here in Los Angeles, which is, of course, famous for Fleetwood Mac's Rumors and Nirvana's Nevermind and a handful of other studios. This is the second collaborative record between Pino and Blake. Blake has a kind of a incredible guitar collection, so it's predominantly guitar and bass at the core of these songs, with some drums and lots of manipulations and smaller instruments here and there. But it's produced by a guy named Joseph Lorge, and this is released on Impulse, actually, through the Universal system. So it's very interesting that they would do this. I mean, Blake has a long list of collaborators and huge artists that he's played with and produced. So he comes in a high regard, but this music is not that accessible, really. It's quite adventurous and very experimental, but there's moments where it just locks into these beautiful grooves, and the production quality is off the charts. This album sounds incredible. The opening track is predominantly just a duet between, I think it's fretless bass and this kind of manipulated guitar that has a bridge made out of rubber that has this kind of like there's almost like a slight portamento, like it's near the note, but not always kind of landing squarely. So it has this kind of malleable kind of movement every time a chord or a note is struck. But it's very tasteful and beautiful, and it's a wild ride of an album. It kind of goes to some crazy places and then comes back to some simpler passages. They did a listening party at a hi-fi shop here in LA called Common Wave, which is where I got this on the release, and they were happy to sign it. But yeah, highly recommended. Their first one is called Notes with Attachments.
Was that the gray one that you played at the 180 Studios?
Exactly. Yeah, it's gray with just simple black type. So it's similar in the vein of that. It's maybe even a bit more experimental. Notes with Attachments is a bit more straight ahead and has some kind of more syncopated percussive parts, but this is a bit more kind of meandering, I would say. But if you're fans of kind of like the newer jazz stuff, or jazz adjacent stuff of like Nala Sinefro and the Jeff Parker Quartet and those kind of things, Physonics and that world of sound, I think that you would really enjoy this as well.
Yeah, that's another one that I bought after you played at 180. I bought the grey one, the one before, and then finally bought this one too. I was really intrigued by some of the instrumentation on that, even though you say they're guitars and things. Sometimes I couldn't tell what the instruments were; they were so kind of treated or affected. So it's really interesting to hear jazz played on kind of totally kind of non-jazz instruments.
Yeah,
I really like it.
It's cool. Yep, I definitely recommend all of these, of course. That was so fun. Thanks for your time. And of course, we'll leave a list of all these below. And hope you all can enjoy some of this stuff too. And we'll maybe do this before next year, and we can talk again.
That would be great. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I guess that's it.
I guess that is, yeah. Are you going to see any live bands soon?
There's this American artist named Dean Johnson who released a record earlier this year on Saddle Creek. I can't remember the name of the album. It's kind of more straight ahead, kind of simple singer-songwriter folk music, I guess, but has a really interesting voice, kind of higher registered voice with a slight lisp, and the instrumentation is really beautiful. I remember the name of it. Has like a painting on the cover, but he's playing soon. I might check that out. I really like that album. I don't tend to listen to a lot of music with lyrics or singer-songwriter stuff, but that one really stuck out to me this year. I don't have it on vinyl, otherwise I probably would have shown it. I've listened to it quite a lot.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. What about you?
The only thing I've kind of definitely got tickets for is the Jonny Nash one.
So good. Wish I could join you.
Possibly the Blue Lake one. I think they're playing at a church in King's Cross, so I might check that out as well.
Amazing. Well, report back.
Will do.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Really good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.